Hey, it's Sunday. Welcome to another episode of the Shaker Heights. Experiences may vary. NFL Sunday. We thank you for taking a pause and watching our show. Eric, how you feeling today? You good?
Good. Hope
Good.
our Brownies we can see a quarterback this year.
Yes. And I want to send a special shout out to them Steeler fans that we know. May you have a beautiful day, however you're spending it. You know, the sun is out, Northeast Ohio, or wherever you are. You had good fellowship, you went to church, had a good brunch, but may your Steelers lose today. May that be a part of your day. And you know who I'm talking about. Tony Peck. Anyway, we're gonna bring this man to the stage. He's a man of many talents, a Renaissance man, living up in New York right now, and he has an enduring Shaker legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage, we have Jimmy Jam Cappelletti.
What's up?
Welcome to the stage, Jimmy Cap.
How you fellas doing?
All right.
Good. Great to see you.
Thank you very much for taking time out from the big city. I miss that place.
My pleasure. I'm honored to be on.
Did you guys run into each other when you were in New York? When you were back in New York?
I'm trying to remember.
How long has it been?
Well, I left out in 2015, but I don't think we linked up until after I left New York.
Yeah, it was right after you left.
Yeah. Because I think the last time I saw you was 2 years ago down here in DC, right? When you came down.
Right. Yeah.
It's 2 years ago. Wow. So, but
it might have been. Yeah, it might have been 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. But no, man, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
And so yeah. I forgot we're coming live from the Lee Road Rapid Stop in our mind. I forgot that.
Lee Road.
Yes. All right, Jimmy. So, where did it all begin for you in the Shaker in the world?
Boulevard Elementary School.
Okay. Tell us about
Boulevard. I met a few people at Boulevard that I'm still friends with today. Rob Barrick,
yes.
Blake Dixon,
yes.
Steve Ellison, Sarah Gardner,
mm-hmm.
Eric Hill, Rob Cronin,
yes.
David Lewis, Chris Daniels. Hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but there were a few others. But we're still in touch today with most of those people.
Wow.
Did you move into the community from another community, or how did you end up on the
show? I was born in Cleveland Heights, lived on Coleridge Road, which right by the public library in Cleveland Heights, Coleridge and Lee. And lived there till I was 5. And then mom and dad had the opportunity to move to Shaker. And mom said, Shaker Schools is where it's at.
Okay.
So we moved to Shaker on Weybridge Road. And I started right away kindergarten at Boulevard.
I used to go to Boulevard for Boulevard Day Camp. That was a cool school, man. I went there with Scott Griffin. That's where I met Scott.
I remember, I remember Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, Henry Jackson too.
Yes, Henry and Chris Jackson. Yes.
Yeah, and they were a little older than me, but
the Golden Twins, I think.
Yeah. Pam and Stephanie.
Meyer. Yeah, Edie Meyer, the Golden Twins. Man, I'm trying to think of some other Boulevard. Biffy Kelly or Elizabeth Kelly.
I love that name.
Yeah.
John Kelly.
Classic.
Yeah. So Southington is interesting because I lived off of Southington across the tracks off of Van Aken. And I remember timing it years ago when I moved back. It's 1.1 miles from start to finish, where Southington ends over there by the Shaker Lakes or the Shaker Park or something. But it's a fascinating journey. To me, it's a perfect cross section of seeing Shaker. in
Yeah.
this socioeconomic. So, but yeah, man. But so how would you describe yourself as a child? Were you happy? Were you
Was I
dancing?
happy?
Yes. And you had
Uh,
siblings and all that.
yeah, I'd say I was a happy kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, had a lot of friends, did a lot of fun things, rode bikes and uh, made ramps and jumped our bikes over stuff and,
Oh man.
stuff like that. Normal kid stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know, when we were kids, it was, go out when the lights come on, when the street lights come on, you come home,
Yeah. Yeah.
be home for dinner. We were just out all day playing all the time. And, one thing I think of is, Boulevard was about a mile away from my house on Weybridge.
Okay.
And I used to walk there, at first, second grade. I just walk, even though I could take the bus.
Yeah.
But I'd walk over, I'd walk through Bicycle Jungle, they called it.
Yeah. Yes. You got any bicycle jungle stories?
I did lose a bike in Bicycle Jungle
Tell us about
once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there were a couple of really big hills in there that we built like little dirt ramps at the bottom of the hill. One was on my way to school, and I'd hit that one at least twice, 2 or 3 times before I hit going to school every day. And but I just can't believe we walked to school. Like I'd walk home for lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
At a really young age, right past Bicycle Jungle, and nobody thought twice of it. We just did it.
Right. No, it's a different thing. I mean, do you still see young kids taking the subway up in the city?
I'll be honest. I don't ride the subway often.
Okay.
I have a really small car.
Oh yes, I've seen that car.
Yes. Yeah, my little smart car, which now looks like a Cleveland Browns helmet because it's orange.
Okay.
Yeah, so I drive to work and back every day, and so I'm never on public transportation.
Yeah. No, that's some days that's a good thing, man. Good thing. Yeah, man. So you kind of touched upon some of your best memories of childhood. Were there any like crazy, bad, worst moments in your childhood, like getting chased by dogs, beat up by a bully, or
Other than getting my bike stolen once, I mean, there were a couple of playground sort of fights, things like that, but nothing really crazy.
Yeah.
We had a really close-knit group of friends. Rob Cronin used to have sleepovers when we were growing up, and me and Blake Dixon and Steve Ellison and Peter Weah and Rob Barrick, sometimes Steve Kelly would be there, a couple other people maybe. We'd go out and we'd snowball cars at night. It was like our thing to do, and and we got in trouble a couple of times. There was one time there was this guy out in a snowstorm and he was building a snowman, and somebody said, we should come back later and knock down the snowman. Just to be assholes, I guess.
Yeah.
So we went out and we're snowballing cars, and we'd always get chased by somebody. Eventually, somebody would stop their car and chase us.
Yeah.
And there's a story in that one too. But anyway, so we're coming back one late night from snowballing cars, and we saw the snowman in this guy's yard. So Blake Dixon takes off, and he's just heading straight for like he's going to tackle the thing. Now, mind you, we were out for a couple hours.
Yeah, yeah.
And right before he got to the snowman, this guy jumped out of the bushes.
Oh, he was lying in wait.
He was waiting for us. It scared the hell out of us, and we all took off in different directions.
Yeah.
We were like abort. And we all met up back at Rob's house like an hour later.
Yeah.
How old were you? Were you pre-teens, teens?
I'm gonna say like 5th, 6th grade.
Okay.
maybe.
So where did you guys set up your ambush for the for hitting cards with snowballs?
Um, what was the name of the street? Rob Cronin lived kind of on the border between Cleveland and Shaker, over by Shaker Square.
Okay. Um,
Eric Hill used to live down the street too.
Probably like
Uh,
Southmoreland or yeah. Okay. Around there. Busy
yeah,
street though.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there were lots of cross streets,
Yeah.
and we had lots of escape routes, just in case somebody stopped. And and mind you, we did this until like eighth or ninth grade, and it was like at that point we were just daring people to come chase us.
You got to
But
figure out something to do. You're not old enough to go to clubs. You're not
right,
old enough to drive, so you create havoc in the streets.
And it
yeah,
sounds like what we were doing over in Ludlow, Fuller and Asamoto, myself and Pat Walker. Yeah.
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 And then later, I remember, who was it? It was either David Lewis or Chris Daniels. I don't want to out people here, but it was either David Lewis or Chris Daniels. One of them used to caddy at the country club,
Yeah.
and maybe one of them got the key to a golf cart or something, and we'd sneak on the course late at night and joyride golf carts.
I heard about that. Folks were
I
doing that.
may or may not have been there. I don't recall.
But I also heard there was
but
a rumor about that too, because wasn't there a guy, the groundskeeper had a shotgun with rock salt or something like that if he caught you?
I remember somebody saying that.
Okay, that was the rumor I
And
remember hearing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and what I remember is like we did this several times, or they did this several times, and like nothing would happen. We'd return the cart, and we'd go back next week and do it again.
Yeah.
And then one weekend things got a little crazy. I remember the Fun Bunch was there, and there were like a bunch of people, and we were joyriding this golf cart, and somehow the cart, I don't know, might have ended up in the ravine or something like that.
Oh shit.
and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
The golf carts were locked up, and we were never again allowed to joyride golf carts.
See? Yeah. Messed it up for everybody.
And I hope the Shaker police aren't listening to this podcast.
Hey, statute of limitations, man. Statute
Yeah.
of limitations.
Yeah, and I remember you guys were talking to Craig Dowdell, and you asked him about who burned the 85 in the football field.
Yeah.
So you have that information? Are you?
I have that information.
Breaking news.
Newsflash. Yeah, I know who did it.
Oh.
I don't know. I think we'll save that for the end of the show.
Okay, that's
all right.
fine. That's fine. Maybe they can come on the show.
Yeah.
Give their story, eyewitness.
Yeah,
So
there were several people involved in that incident.
okay, so it was a crew.
There was a crew. Yeah.
Okay, all right. 40. Hey man, now's the time. It's truth of it's revelations time.
That's right.
Good, the bad, and the ugly.
We're on like 40 years almost. So
Yeah. You guys have your reunion next year.
That's right. You're a year below us. Yeah, we're a year ahead.
Yeah. 85 all the way live.
85 get live. It was crazy. I mean, we were just this really tight knit group of people.
We were.
And we just had a lot of fun all the time. Everything was about just having fun.
Yeah.
We were dancing all the time in the hallways, doing train dances and
so I'm going to pull up
hallways.
Something from the 84 gristmill. That would be you, right?
Look at that guy.
Right.
Who's that guy there?
Now, tell me about this guy. Tell me about who he was, what his daily diet was, what he was into. What was he into back then?
Or what gave you the modern dance bug? Like, did you watch Oklahoma or something like that, or Guys and Dolls? Okay,
1985. '83, so it was my sophomore year of high school. Breakdancing was just kind of getting started. And, occasionally as I'd walk through the halls, there'd be kids breakdancing in the hallway.
Yeah.
And I remember I was hanging out with Molly Sindelar, Jack Strow, Stephanie Teville, and maybe Jack's sister or something, Lisa. Anyway, I saw these kids breakdancing in the hallway, and I was trying to explain to them what I saw. And in explaining to them what I had seen, I just started doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I could just sort of do the wave with my arms, my head, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Stephanie was like, "Oh my God, you're breakdancing." And I was like, "Oh yeah, what do you know?" So yeah, I just sort of accidentally sort of found out I could do it. And the more I saw stuff on MTV, I could just sort of copy it and do it. And I don't know how that happened. I have no idea. I had an athletic background. I played baseball and basketball, a little bit of football, even though I had no business playing football. When I was at Woodbury, I was like 5'3" and 88 pounds. And and I remember like the coaches at Woodbury were like, "Play outside linebacker." I'm like, "What?"
that was for their amusement.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
That was like, get Cappelletti, put him in outside linebacker.
Go tackle Luther Johnson.
Right. Needless to say that the coaches at Woodbury didn't like me very much, but it had something to do with my father coaching at Heights. But anyway, so the breakdancing, like one thing led to another. And, it was like on the weekends, we were breakdancing at parties, just having fun, doing things, learning new tricks, things that we saw on MTV, as I said. And
so who were these other people that you were breakdancing with? Because
who was your crew?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I didn't have a crew initially. What happened was somebody in the dance club, Liz Routman, approached. Yeah, rest in peace. Liz actually lived right across the street from me on Weybridge. Liz approached me and asked me to do something with the dance club, and the dance club administrator, Marjorie Farron, had asked Liz to ask me because she knew I was just getting this sort of notoriety as the white boy that could breakdance. And so I had seen Henry Jackson and a bunch of football players do a piece in the school dance show.
Oh, okay.
And it was him and a bunch of other football players. And, they did this sort of, Thor with swords kind of, silhouettes, and it was really cool. And I thought, hey, look at these guys. They're in the club. So I started hanging out around the dance club when Liz asked me. And, well, there were like 85 girls in the dance club. And I was like, yeah, I can hang out here for a little while.
Yeah.
And the guy that I'm pictured with in that book, Tony. Yeah. Tony could break. Tony could do all kinds of stuff. And Tony taught me how to incorporate waving and breaking all throughout my body, and taught me some floor work and stuff like that. So Tony said, you and I are going to do a duet, and we're going to do it to Michael Jackson. I think we did something off the Off the Wall album.
Yeah.
The best
album.
And
yeah. And right before Michael started having lots of surgery. Anyway, so I made my debut in like the winter dance show in the gym, me and Tony, and that's when it hit. And like I was instantaneously well known right after that. I was the white guy that could break.
Well, I was going to say, you had some hate. You had a hater. I'm gonna out him right now. You had Paul Bixler. Paul Bixler was hating on you because you took you took the shine.
After I had done the show at Shaker, I found out Paul could break. Craig Dowdell and I did a birthday party together. We were breakers. Somebody hired us to do breakdancing at their
Oh
birthday party.
wow, okay.
Really?
Um,
Hired?
Yeah, we got
Oh,
hired. We
hired.
made money. We made money.
Like
Um,
Chippendales. Shit.
it was a kid's birthday party, so it was all
Okay.
clean. Yeah, but we like walked in there with a big boom box. It needed like 17 double D batteries and a cassette tape. We had like the Gap band. And yeah, we went in there and we were breakdancing for some little kid's birthday party. And
So
we made cash.
did you change culturally? Did you dress change? Did you start embodying more hip hop like accessories?
B-boy shit. Yeah.
Not really. I think I kind of stayed, I always wore a baseball cap throughout high school, and I still do today, obviously. But no, I don't think much changed about me. It was just I was a little more well known. People knew who I was because of the breakdancing. Margie Farron, the dance coach there, said, "Okay, you've got talent. You can dance, you can move. Why don't you do a duet with Liz and just go off with her and do a duet?" So Liz did choreographed a duet for us, and I was able to just sort of pick it up and do it. So we did this duet, and I think that premiered in the Winter Dance Show too. The time I did the breakdancing thing with Tony. Yeah, so that led to another show, which was on the stage at Shaker at the end of the year, which is a more full out production with lights and everything on the big theater stage. And Marjorie just kept encouraging me to try new things. And my athletic career at Shaker really wasn't going anywhere. And it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of people there doing a lot of things. Marjorie just gave us full creativity to create and do things that we wanted. So I became a dance captain. It was me and Laura Calfatis, Julie Fuller, and Jamie Keene were the dance captains my senior year. And that year, like a bunch of teachers, I remember Mr. Hansen, Eric Hansen's father.
Okay.
He pulled me aside and was like, I think you need to do something with this. It's not just fun. Like, you're really good at what you're doing. So him and Marjorie and a couple other teachers really encouraged me to check some things out. And I took one dance class prior to going to Ohio State. And unbeknownst to me, without my knowing, Ohio State had one of the best dance programs in the country.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And so I thought, maybe I'd do a minor or something. So I inquired about that, and they said, we don't do minors. You're either major or you can do some electives. So I auditioned for the dance department, and they accepted me. And within a year, I got a full scholarship.
Oh, right on. Right on.
Was your family backing you? Were they, or did they?
Yeah, they were. They were 100% behind me. They loved it, especially when I got the scholarship. They were like, "Go for it, just do it." They felt like, if nothing else, I got a free ride through college, and I could, always change careers afterwards if it didn't work out.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I didn't know that about, the Ohio State dance program. I mean, I know I was down there briefly when you were there, but I did not know about the magnitude that that program held.
Yeah, I didn't either. And like
wow.
I said, one of the best in the country. And I got a real crash course in what it's like to be a professional dancer real fast, because they didn't mess around. It was like full time. I was taking advanced modern dance, improvisation, ballet, which I had never done in my life ever.
Wow.
And And ballet was really, really difficult. It was something that
Yeah.
all sorts of things came naturally to me. Modern dance was fine. I could just watch, pick it up, do it. Ballet made no sense whatsoever. It was a foreign language, and I was in ballet 1 for 2 years. I couldn't seem to just. It made no sense to me. It wasn't weighted, you know. You know, breakdancing, modern dance, a lot of things are about dropping your weight into the floor, and which seemed natural to me. And ballet was more about bringing your weight up and lifting off, you know, defying gravity kind of thing. And yeah, I hated ballet quite a
Did
bit.
you have to like learn how to walk on your toes?
No,
Okay.
no toe work.
Okay.
No point work for the boys
Okay.
in school. But
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty amazing. That's like being Akeem Olajuwon picking up basketball in high school.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
fell upon that, and you get a scholarship. And I know most of those people have probably been practicing at least when in their 9s and 10s, and they've had all that experience, and they knew exactly that they wanted to do just that. And you just demoing what you thought breakdancing was to a bunch of friends led to that. That's pretty incredible.
He's a natural.
When I think back upon it, you know, I was like, yeah, I'll go to school for 4 years and I'll become a dancer.
Yeah.
Like you do anything. And I mean, 4 years to become a professional dancer it's insane. You know, I mean, it's a very short amount of time. And but that's what I did. It was just like I didn't think twice about it. It was like, all right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to give it my all. If it doesn't work out, I'll change majors and do something else. But yeah, it was a intense 4 years. They had a dance company, a university dance company, which I was in for a couple of years, and you know, we got a lot of performance experience, a little bit of touring experience, and I guess long story short, what happened was when I was in high school, I saw a PBS special called Moses Pendleton Presents Moses Pendleton. And it was about this guy that started a dance company called Palabolis with a few other people when he was at Dartmouth College. And Palabolis became tremendously successful touring around the world. And Moses was asked to choreograph something for the Cultural Olympiad for the Lake Placid Games in 1980. And he choreographed a piece called Momix. And the Momix solo was, it was like him in a white silk suit with a Panama hat and a white cane. And the first 3.5 minutes or so of the piece was him doing tricks with this cane to this reggae music. And then the second half was him fooling around in these solo down spots on the stage to Rapper's Delight.
Oh, wow.
By Sugar Hill Gang. And when I saw it when I was in high school, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how I was going to do it. But I remember it, and I kept thinking about it all through college. And I figured, you know, one day I'm going to move to New York because that's where all the dancers go. And I'm going to try to get into that company. I'm going to try to get into Momix and do that solo. That's all I wanted to do. So I got a job right out of college in New York with a group called Mark Taylor and Friends. And literally, like the week after I moved here, I was lucky enough to move here with a job, which a lot of people, you know, I was sort of recruited out of college. And a week after I moved here, Mark announced that he was moving the company to Pittsburgh. And I was like, Pittsburgh? I was like, no, I just moved to New York.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm from Cleveland. I'm not going back there. I'm not, and especially Pittsburgh. Come on.
No.
So he was like, Jim, it's a full-time job for a dancer. And I was like, no, I'm not moving to Pittsburgh.
And a conviction. Love it.
Right. So that actually, you know, that just lit a fire into my ass. And I I ran into an old friend from Ohio State. Her name is Nancy Bannon, and she had danced with Momix for a brief time, but didn't like it. Wasn't her thing. But anyway, I found Nancy because I knew she had gotten into Momix, and I was like, "You have to introduce me to Momix. It's my dream job. That's what I want." And so she made a phone call for me and got me connected to them. And I literally called them like once a week for 6 months,
Mm.
like asking for an audition. And when I look back on that, I'm like, who the hell was I to do that? I mean, who does that?
Naive people, and that's what
Yeah,
we lose when
right.
we get older. You know, you
Yeah,
have
so-
to be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, here I am just cold calling people I don't know, telling them that they need to invite me up for an audition. And finally, one day, I think she probably got sick of me calling and was like, all right, come up to Connecticut, because their studio is in Washington, Connecticut, about an hour and a half outside the city. And she was like, all right, come on up, see what you got. And it was just me.
Wow.
And I went, I auditioned, and I got in. And the first thing I learned was the Momix solo that I saw on TV when I was in high school.
Oh, wow. Full circle,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So when you audition, do you come up with something geared towards who you're auditioning to, or how do you plan for something like that?
Typically, an audition would be, somebody in the company would give you different dance phrases to perform for the director. With Momix, it was basically like, show us what you got, show us all your skills. So, I'd held on to all my breakdancing stuff. At Ohio State, the breakdancing wasn't so much a thing. They were like, all right, yeah, we know you can breakdance. Now let's learn, modern dance, let's learn ballet, those things. And I never let go of the breakdancing. It was always something I did for fun, and I really enjoyed it. And Momix was all about incorporating your talent, whatever you bring to the table. So, Moses saw my breakdancing abilities and literally just let me put it into his solo.
That's so dope, man.
So he knew how to bring out the best in people in a way.
Yeah.
And he was like, you do you, you're not going to do it the same way I did it. So you do you. And it was, next thing I knew, I was on a plane flying all around the world performing.
Wow. Speaking of breakdancing, this was a random thought I had a couple of sentences ago. Beat Street, Electric, Breakin'. Which one did you like better?
Breakin' was the first one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the first one. Breakin' was the better one.
Harry Belafonte was involved with that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beat Street Breakdown. Man,
so where does that take you? You're with that group, and for that long, did you go to another dance company, or how long do you stay with these companies?
With Momix, Momix is a really small group of us. There were only 4 dancers, 2 men and 2 women.
Wow.
So it's like, you think Cirque du Soleil on a much smaller scale. Pilobolus, where Moses got his start, was about creating illusion with the body. And then when Moses made the Momix solo, it was more about creating illusion with props. So he took the prop idea to another level, and there were lots and lots of props, creating illusion, doing tricks. It required a lot of athletic ability, gymnastic ability, and your dancing ability. I did another piece with Momix called Circle Walker, which is on YouTube. It's kinetic sculpture that moved out, that rolled on the stage. So it's this huge sphere that sort of rolled, and it was a solo for just a male dancer. And there's nothing I trained for or studied in dance that would prepare me for something like that, or prepare anybody for it, really.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, so you're going to learn this dance. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to learn this dance. I mean, how do you learn this dance? So the creator of it came in, and, you know, you learn a dance in a day. You learn the steps, and then you incorporate it, you get it into your body and make it second nature. But with Circle Walker, I had to learn like one move at a time. And it took like a month, I think, for me to learn all the moves, one move at a time. And then I tried to string them all together, and I couldn't get through the piece. It was like a 10, 12-minute piece. And it just was impossible to do. You know, I didn't have the stamina. I was overworking things, using too much muscle, too much energy. And, you know, you kind of have to learn how to relax with it and roll with it. And so I thought of it as a duet with the sculpture. So it was like the sculpture had its own weight and movement, and I just had to learn to go for a ride on this thing. But the scary part was, if it rolled off stage, you could kill some people. So that was always a little scary.
Right. New York Post headline, you know.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and Momix, they said yes to pretty much, well, their producer said yes to just about everybody that wanted us to perform there. So we were literally on the road nonstop. It was doing about 150 shows a year.
What?
Yeah, it was insane. Just insane. You know, I'd be in Italy for 3 weeks, in Milan, and then a day later we were in this like little studio in Switzerland for 150 people. And then we do a coastal tour of Italy, a bus tour, like one night stands, and then we'd stop in one of the bigger major cities, and we'd do 2 or 3 weeks in one of those cities. And we go to South America, we do the same thing.
So were you loading up on B12 and oxygen? How are you getting through all of this?
Man, I don't know. It was just, there were mornings I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it to the shower. I was so sore.
Yeah.
And there were no backups. You know, we didn't have understudies. So it was like, just get it done. The travel was hell, but amazing. It was probably the best education I ever had in my life, traveling around the world.
Yeah.
You know,
what did you learn most about this and yourself in this? Did you ever think that you could do something like this, performance in front of so many people, go past your will, test your will as you did in these performances?
Yeah, it was a big test of will. You know, it was like, you know, be careful for what you wish for, because you might get it. And I got my dream, and there I was traveling around the world nonstop, and it was exhausting. You know, travel is hell on the body, and performing that much is also tough on the body. You know, we didn't have the greatest contract in terms of protecting the dancers, in terms of like having travel day, having a day off after a travel day. And we didn't always get that. It was more like, you know, once you get there, we might end up in the theater that night spacing stuff, and then the next day doing rehearsals. And it's like, you know, come on, we got to let our body adjust a little bit here.
Right.
And you know, the ins and outs, the hardships of being on the road, I was not prepared for. And you know, there was no handbook given to me like, this is what it's like, this is what you have to prepare for. So we just kind of had to figure it out. We had to figure out that being a tourist in all of these beautiful places isn't always the best idea. You know, you better stay home, get some rest, take a nice hot bath, go to the theater when it's time to work. And people were like, oh, I want to go see this and that, and I want to, you know, walk around and experience the sights. And it's not always a good idea. Yeah. I remember a friend of mine on tour one time, one of our lighting designers, we were in Napoli, Italy, And he was like, "Have you ever seen the Amalfi Coast?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "It's close, and we could rent mopeds and ride down the Amalfi Coast." And I was like, "All right, maybe we got to do that." So we took the train from Napoli to Salerno, rented mopeds, and rode down the whole Amalfi Coast. And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Just incredible. And we experienced kind of cold weather, rainy weather, sunny weather, all within like a 2-hour time frame of riding down the coast. And then we came back, went to get on the train, and the train workers went on strike. So we're sitting there at the train station trying to find a way to call the theater in Napoli, telling them that we might be late. And trains went back into service like 2 hours before showtime. And I literally, we got back to Napoli, ran to the hotel, I got my stuff, ran to the theater, and literally walked in as the curtain was coming down to start the show.
Damn.
What are the consequences?
I was exhausted. I mean, I could barely stay awake. And I was like, this is why you don't go out playing tourist during the day. You know, you need to rest.
What are the consequences if you had missed the show? I'm thinking of the story of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis flying out and not being able to get back to the time show,
Right.
and they get fired by Prince. Are there any consequences, or are you fined or anything, or what happens if you don't make it back to the show?
I don't know what they were talking about what they were going to do if I hadn't shown up at the last minute, and they were rearranging the program a little bit.
The show, not punishment. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they were talking about how they would rearrange the program. Our director Moses Pendleton and his wife Cynthia didn't always travel with us. We were just kind of on our own. They were like, "Yeah, go have fun, make us some money." So, yeah, make us the money.
Yeah.
I remember we were in Santiago, Chile, and the producer, we showed up at this one theater, and I needed to, at the very minimum, I needed to space the circle walker out prior to showtime. And if I didn't have that, I couldn't do it, because I needed to put some tape marks on the stage so that I didn't roll off and kill people. And he was like, "Well, we're running late. You don't have time to do spacing for circle walk." And I was like, "Well, then I can't do it." And he was like, "No, you'll be fine. You'll do it. You've done it hundreds of times." I was like, No, you got to let me space it. It's give me 10 minutes. Let me space it." And he wouldn't let me do it. So I didn't do the piece.
Wow.
I told our lighting designers, I was like, "Just roll through to the end. I'm not doing it."
Yeah.
And he went ballistic. He had a shit fit and called Moses Pendleton back in the United States, and I guess he was like telling on me or something. And so Moses called me at the hotel and was like, "What happened?" I told him. He was like, "Yeah, Julio's crazy." So nothing happened to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "I told you I needed 10 minutes."
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
But
good.
I was afraid. I was afraid.
Yeah.
I thought, I might get fired or something, but Moses stuck up for us, which is
right on. So in terms of the, you're up in New York, Dance Central, like the other dance companies that are up there, is there like a hierarchy between like the Merce Cunningham Dance Company, Alvin Ailey, and, in that whole dance ecosystem?
Yeah.
What was it
Well,
like?
in New York, the big dance companies, Ailey and Cunningham, Paul Taylor, Twyla Tharp, those were all those were the big ones. Those were the companies that offered a paying gig and touring around the world. And you were lucky if you were able to get to one of those jobs. I had auditioned for Trisha Brown prior to Momix and made callbacks, but didn't get in the company.
Mm-hmm.
They were the true modern dancers, the modern dance sort of pioneers, the Lamones and the Grahams. And again, not many people were able to get into those companies, but those were the big ones. Momix, I think they looked at us more like the circus in a way, that, they were like Palabolas and Momix. They made their own money by touring, and that was unheard of by other companies. The big dance companies in New York City, the Aileys and the Cunninghams and those, they had to write a lot of grants and get funding, and did not tour anywhere near the amount of touring that Palabolas and Momix were doing. They toured a lot, but not like, again, Momix was just crazy with the amount of touring that they did.
So like with like Juilliard, because they had a dance program too, right?
Yeah.
Was there like that kind of snobbery? I'm from Juilliard, and like you're from Ohio State, you're from the Midwest.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to like check somebody about that in that way?
When I was in college, again, my friend Nancy Bannon, she ended up transferring to Juilliard, and we were like, oh, well, she's going to Juilliard. She's a sellout.
Yeah, right.
I think when we were in college, there might have been, we looked at that sort of thing, like, those that went there, they maybe had it made, I guess. But once you were out and doing your thing, there was no resume in the dance world. There were no resumes or headshots or any of that made a difference, because you had to show up and do your thing. And if you couldn't do your thing, forget it. I remember a lot of people when I was in college said things to me like, oh, you got a scholarship just because you're a male dancer. And I've had people say you got a professional job just because you were a male dancer. And I'm like, really? I kind of worked my ass off for this.
Yeah.
You don't get a gig like Momix or Palabolas just because you're a man.
Yeah, right.
You don't. You got to be able to do it.
Right.
And I'd always had questions like, would I have been able to do the other things like Cunningham or Twyla Tharp? I admired Twyla Tharp endlessly. I really liked her work. And so afterwards, much later, I ended up auditioning for her workshop she had in DC. And I got it. And it was sort of a quiet victory for me to be able to do that, to say, I was accepted to something that Twyla did, but I also did this other thing too. So, yeah.
And it just shows, the balance, like, because that dance company that you're talking about reminds me of like, seeing theater like in the East Village, as opposed to seeing theater on Broadway, and
right.
But the fact that you've worked in both worlds,
Yeah.
So nice. Respect.
Yeah.
Was touring seasonal? Was there, because I can't imagine you doing this to your body continuously. Was there a certain amount of months that were cut out for touring and traveling, or did it just go all year round?
It almost went year round, and we would kind of taper off in the summer. So I remember we would typically have maybe June or July. We'd be home in Connecticut, rehearsing at the studio a little bit with a little bit of time off. But there would be occasional tours here and there. But once the fall came around, we'd hit the road, and it was nonstop. It just kept going. I remember one year we went to, it was Amsterdam. We went to Amsterdam and stayed in Amsterdam Central and did a different city in the Netherlands every night for a month.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of travel.
But luckily, a very small country, we were able to sort of drive out and be centrally located in Amsterdam. And then right after that, we went to Italy for 3 weeks. And then we went somewhere else to Canada for 3 weeks and like did a PBS special. And then we went back to Italy to do a Rai Uno special for TV there. And then so between like little movie projects, TV projects, and then there would be the shows. And again, the big cities would be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks in the big cities, and then one night stands in all these little cities.
Now, did you ever have an opportunity to create your own pieces and present them to be a part of what you were doing with Moblex? Did I say that right? Moblex?
Momix.
Yeah. Moblex.
With Momix, yeah, Moses really let us put ourselves into the work when we created work. And, he wanted us to shine doing the things we did best.
Yeah.
So he was really good at finding those things that we were doing that he liked, and he'd pick those out and piece them, and he'd sort of piece them all together. Do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and put this here and do it that way. So, he had a good eye. He was a good director in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did it start to say I don't want to say get old, or over time? I mean, you were dancing after a while and you're like, okay, do you want to go back and teach, or were you at a dance crossroads after a period of time?
Yeah, after about 4 years of being on the road,
Yeah.
I got pretty exhausted from it. I took a break from the company, and I did some freelance work with Pilables. They had some side projects they needed help with, so I did that for a little while. I toured with the Circle Walker, separate from the company, because Circle Walker belonged to somebody else. Moses had just bought it for the company. So I did some Circle Walker things, I did some Pilables things, and then I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to go back and get my graduate degree, and possibly go into teaching. And so I checked out. I was thinking about UCLA or NYU and Ohio State again. And Ohio State pretty much let me write my own program.
Nice.
Yeah. So they were like, you do what you want to do. We'll give you the money. And so I went back to Ohio State because I didn't have to retake a bunch of things that I had done as an undergrad. And they let me write my own program. So I wrote a program for artistic direction, and I started my own company with the students at Ohio State. So I set several pieces on a group of students that I had handpicked, giving them the opportunity to do professional work. We did a little bit of touring and a big performance at the end of my graduate degree. So,
right on.
and then I found out after graduating from graduate school that all the dance jobs were in places like Denton, Texas, or Iowa, or Illinois. Like not Chicago, Illinois, but like
like Cairo, Illinois.
Carbone, Illinois. So teaching, I didn't think was my thing. I didn't want to go live in some random Midwestern place to teach just because it was available.
Footloose version 5,
Yeah. So I got married, moved back to New York, and I became the manager for Lamone Dance Company. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I moved to the Joyce Theater, where I was like an in-house company manager.
Yeah.
So all the companies that came through the Joyce, I was in charge of helping out. Okay. And then I became director of theater operations at the Joyce Theater. Big title and a lot of work. I mean, just way too much work. And between managing the Joyce, I also had to manage Joyce Soho. So all of that was my responsibility, and everybody that worked in both buildings was my responsibility. And it was crazy. And very soon after that, I was brought the opportunity to buy a dog walking business.
So how old were you at this point? How many years had you been in the dance business?
Let's see, I was about to turn 40.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been doing the professional dance thing for, it was Momix for 4 years, freelancing for a couple of years after that, and then off to grad school. Yeah. And then a few years with Lamone, 3 years with the Joyce. And then my old dog walker told me he was selling his business and wanted to know if I knew of anybody that would be interested in buying his business. And I said, let me take a look at your books. And I was like, why not? It's physical.
Yeah.
You're out all the time. I love dogs. Again, my dog walker was walking my dog, and I had the greatest dog in the world at that time. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this out. You know, my wife and I were separating, and I think I was just kind of ready for a change.
Okay.
So, you know, they were basically selling it for a song. I mean, so I just jumped at it. Didn't give a lot of thought, but I was like, you know what? Let me try this out. And 18 years later, I still own the dog walking business.
Oh man.
How does I'm sorry, I'm just thinking, how did that feel physically, mentally, getting away from the business of dance and then going to something just so polar opposite of what you were doing before?
Well, the administrative side of dance, managing the companies, managing at the Joyce Theater, I had to sit at a desk, and it made no sense to me. And I be honest, I really didn't like it. I missed the physicality of being a professional dancer. And the dog walking got me outside. Granted, 8 hours a day, walking a lot more than I ever thought I'd walk, but it was the physicality of it was a welcome change, and I really enjoyed it.
Did you take a hit monetarily, and did it bother you that you did?
Monetarily, things went up quite a bit.
I can see that.
Yeah. Part of the reason for buying the dance, the dog walking business was finances, because when I was separating from my wife, New York City is a very expensive place, and I was in arts administration, and let's be honest, money in arts administration just isn't that great. Even in New York, it's not that great.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a considerable pay raise moving to the dog walking business.
Wow.
So finish this phrase, and tell me if you can finish this phrase. Why must I chase the cat? Why must I be like that?
Oh yeah, the atomic dog.
There you go.
That was our class theme song.
Yeah.
I mean, all the dance parties ended with Atomic Dog. And it would be like, you remember K-Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be, K-Ron would start the line dance, and we'd all jump in behind him, and, we were dogging it out all the time. Yeah.
I would say that and Planet Rock. Planet Rock.
Tour de France by Kraftwerk.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evergreens. And I'm sorry, early in the conversation, your duet partner at Shaker, Tony, what was his last name? Because it doesn't ring a bell for me.
Tommy is Tommy. The reason I know him is Tommy Richardson's cousin, and Tommy lived behind me.
Okay.
I don't remember Tony's last name. Is it in the book?
Let me see if I can.
Just a random question,
I mean, there's tons of pictures. He seemed like. Did you see what happened with his career after high school? Did you follow him or know what happened to him?
I don't actually. He just disappeared. I remember asking about it quite a bit, and nobody ever knew where he was.
Did you ever have an opportunity to go back to Shaker and give workshops to the dance department there or anything over the years?
No, I never had the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'd done some stuff with the theater, and I remember the theater, Mr. Thornton Mr. Thornton had reached out to me a few times because his son had actually ended up working with Plobolus for a little while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I did a little bit of theater. He sort of recruited me to do a couple of things, and but no, I did not have the opportunity to go back to Shaker and teach any dance.
Were you, coming from the Shaker dance department, were you like, I'm just throwing out the random example, like a LeBron, like that once in a generation student that came through the Shaker dance department that, climbed those heights that you did with the experiences and stuff like that? Would you consider that, or, yeah, I mean, you stood out, I mean, have you felt that anybody follow, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is did anybody follow like in your footsteps, when you left Shaker and, went to Ohio State and, just stuff with Momex and everything?
Um, I don't know of anybody that did, and I always wanted to be able to go back and do some things,
Hmm.
but the touring schedule in Momix just did not allow it.
Yeah.
Again, the only free time I ended up having was in the summers, and was just never able to get back. I was so busy that first 10 years, it didn't. Yeah, I made it back for my 10-year reunion,
Hmm.
and then missed the 20-year reunion, and then got back to the 30-year reunion,
Yeah.
which was a blast.
Yeah.
Which was an absolute. I think we had the same DJ that played our prom,
Wow.
and he had like all the same records. And I remember walking in. God, this is almost 10 years ago, for our 30-year reunion, and I hit the dance floor and did not leave the dance floor for like
Yeah.
6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it ended up with me and K-Ron doing the Atomic Dog all around the dance floor and out the door as it ended. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
how's
hella
your
cool.
how's your body holding up?
Oh, it's much better now. I mean, I thought I had some permanent damage after years of Momix, but over time it went away, luckily. And
So you don't have any joint problems or anything from all of that?
from all of that, I do not. I have, I walk probably 10 miles a day for work,
Yeah.
and that keeps me in pretty good shape. So, living that physical lifestyle, I really kind of enjoy it. So, I have to get up, do a little bit of stretching every now and then, and sort of keep on top of it. You have to buy new sneakers all the time, which I kind of enjoy, which is fun. Eat right. Gave up drinking a long time ago because I just, my body can't process it anymore.
Yeah.
And it slows me down. If I have a couple of beers or a couple of glasses of wine, forget it. I'm like toast for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So,
Are you still connected to the dance world in any way at this point, or?
not really. I mean, I have some friends that are a little bit, but I've really it's really fell off into the past.
Yeah. So, Shutterbug. How'd you jump into that?
Well, Gabe, I got to tell you, because I was encouraged to sort of explore my my interest in photography by a few people, and you were one of them.
Really? Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
when
when somebody like Gabe Tolliver comes knocking and says, you've got an eye, and that Gabe Tolliver went to NYU Film School, it's kind of flattering. It really is.
I appreciate it. It's flattering to hear that from you. So I recognize you.
So yeah, that I'd started with like little things, doing my iPhone. It was pretty much how it all started.
Yeah.
And really wasn't thinking about photography. in any way. I was just taking pictures and having fun taking pictures. And, some people noticed my photos and were like sort of giving me encouragement, you being one of them.
Yeah.
And then one day I ran into Mark Kornbluth, class of 84, 85, both.
Yeah, Mark Kornbluth. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. Yeah, ran into him here in New York City and like random run into. And he was like, "Hey, I've seen your work on Facebook. I really like it." And I was like, "My work?" And he's like, "Yeah, your photography. It's really good." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." So we were catching up and I asked him what he did. And he's like, "Well, I'm a photographer."
Hmm.
So that was another person that sort of,
Yeah.
pushed me in that direction. And then during the pandemic hit and suddenly there was nothing to do. And I was hanging out with Mark a little bit every now and then. And he told me, he was like, you should consider getting a real camera. And I said, well, if I get a real camera, you've got to show me what to do. If I have questions, you've got to answer those questions. So I promised him I would buy him coffee for life if he just answered my camera questions. Yeah. And he was gracious enough to do that. So I bought a real camera, and whenever I had a question, I'd call him up, buy him coffee, and he would teach me how to, do the physical things with the camera.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take long. There was a bit of a learning curve in the beginning, but once I got the right equipment, I was kind of off and running.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I don't know what got into me, but once I got the real camera, I made a pact with myself that I was going to give it a go, see if I could really do some things with it. And next thing you know, I'm going out every night.
Yeah.
And whenever I can, really. And it's become my therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And, the process of going out every night, getting somewhere, spending an hour to 2 hours walking around, taking pictures, coming home, uploading them to my computer, going through what I've taken, learning from what I've taken, what could be better, what worked, what didn't work, going through the editing process, which is a whole nother art form.
Yeah.
And, suddenly my evenings became just that. I'd go out, come home. By the time I'm done going through everything and editing, it's midnight, 12:30 in the morning, and I go to bed because I got to get up early to go walk my dogs in the morning. So, it just gets you out of your headspace. You're out there, you're creating things, learning things about the editing. Again, I'm still learning. I mean, I'm starting my 4th year with a camera this year.
Only 4 years? Wow, dude.
Yeah,
man.
It's my senior year with the camera.
Time has flown.
Yeah. So, I love it. I love it to death. I love the whole process, everything about it. And if something good comes of it, something good comes of it. It's, I feel blessed to be able to create some of those bangers,
Yeah.
There's some really good ones,
Quite a few, bro.
To me, it's a lot like baseball, because there's a lot of failure in baseball and there's a lot of failure in photography. I fail more at photography than I succeed. I'll tell you that. If I go
what do you consider a failure? Because it's a growing process, It's and I'm thinking about you and things that I have experienced, especially through the pandemic, and I can relate to a lot of things that you're talking about because they're symbiotic. From the point of you had a love for music, you found out you could dance, which was connected to your athleticism, and then you fell upon a camera, and then you started taking pictures, and you love animals, so you start walking dogs and everything. Are there other things do they just kind of fall in your lap, these experiences, or do you have a bucket list? Are you starting to have a bucket list, or are you? I keep seeing that you've got this visual acuity about yourself, and you know how your body moves, and musically, it seems like you're into that. I see these things. Do you see these things coming together in any type of form or any type of way in the near future, or you just do it for fun? You don't want that pressure.
Um, yeah, those are great questions. I feel lucky to have found photography because I figured once dance was over, that was it. I did my thing. I had my one love in life, and I did it. I was successful at it. You know, that's all you get, right? You get one of those things. If you're lucky, you get
One
one.
true love. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always knew that dance would end at some point, and I literally was just like, yeah, I did the one thing I loved, and that's over now. And I knew that it would come to an end, and I would just kind of move on. Finding photography I love it as much as I do dance, so I feel extremely lucky to have found it, to have another love the way I love dance. Um, so I'm just blessed to have that experience. Finding out that it takes physicality to go out and shoot, especially the way I shoot, because I do things from a very low perspective a lot of the time. So not easy, sometimes I'll be sore the next day after a night of shooting, especially after a rainy night, because I'm down on the ground getting the reflections off of puddles and things like that.
Yeah, man, that's your yeah. That's your
so
yeah,
my
that's your
knees
groove.
my
Yeah.
knees feel it a little bit the next day. I guess it's kind of coincidentally, it all kind of came together like that. Having the physicality of it, to do photography, you've got to go out, you've got to go experience things. I mean, I suppose you can do photography from home, depends on what you're shooting, but I find going to some random place in the city every night exhilarating. So I've been to all these different places and really started to explore. And now I'm getting back to certain places multiple times, and finding more and more about that area, and learning about it, and learning more about different angles and composition, and finding good composition, and waiting for the right time for people to walk through that composition, and placing those people in the composition the way I want them. All of that just makes me not think about Donald Trump. Shit like that.
That's a perfect segue. Because I was going to ask you about you are a convicted Facebook felon.
Yeah, I am. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And proud of it, right? How many
Yeah.
counts of banning have you had?
Oh, I've been in Facebook jail more than I cared to remember. Yeah, and it was like months at a time. But it all happened during Trump's term, all of it.
Yeah.
I was thrown in jail several times. I was thrown off Facebook for months because, I don't know. I mean, call me Antifa. Fine. I don't care. Except the worst one was I went after, what's his name? That little punk ass bitch. What was his name? The guy that's...
you talking about Ron DeSantis, Rick Abbott?
No. It was this guy that...
Mike Pence.
Little froggy thing.
Oh,
he's like a Nazi something wannabe.
Bannon?
Richard... Not Bannon.
Richard Spencer. Richard Spencer.
Yes, Richard Spencer. Yeah. All right. I mean, all the things I did. I got kicked off Facebook several times for posting Led Zeppelin's album cover. Forget which one it is. The one that's got the kids that are so big.
Yeah, in the farmland. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. On the shore. Yeah. What is that?
Yeah. I got kicked off Facebook for posting that album cover. But anyway, Richard Spencer, I went after him directly. and I don't know, there might have been some threatening words in there. But anyway, yeah, I got
Nice.
kicked off for like a month, and people started to. They thought it was funny every time I got kicked off or thrown in jail, and it sort of became a thing. And um, yeah, the Trump thing, sitting around thinking about that shit, it's just unhealthy, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
And
Yeah, I'm.
having the escape of photography was monumental for me. It was like, wow, I don't need to watch the news. I don't need to think about that shit anymore. I can just go do my thing and, keep abreast of the situation. I have really smart friends. Thank God my friends are from Shaker. They're all well-informed people, well-read, and they'll tell me when I need to worry, when I need to worry about something. I can go do my thing.
So
Yeah.
Well,
what validates you're talking about failures with your photography? Um,
Yeah.
what validates whether it's a failure or a success with your work?
Um, I think it's easy to say on one level that if I go out and take, say, 100 pictures somewhere and none of them come out great, or, there are no bangers in there, or nothing that
Mhm.
I feel is worth posting, that could be considered a failure. Or I like to think of it more as like I struck out. I didn't get a hit.
Because I've looked at stuff that I've done. I've done a lot of drawing more than I did. I'm an industrial designer. I went to CIA, and I started doing a lot more fine art during the pandemic. And then I started writing poetry, and then
Hmm.
I thought it was good then, and then I'm 4 or 5 years later, I go back and say, "Wow, that really sucked," in
Right.
comparison.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
growth.
Right.
There's always going to
Yeah.
be growth. There's a
Yeah.
growth period. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Are
Absolutely. And I
you?
think with photography, I think age, aging a photo, some photos need to age.
Mhm.
I have pictures that I look back on that I took when I first started with the camera that I liked. I thought were really good. And now I'm like, oh, that is just trash.
Mhm.
It is
Do you
not
have
acceptable.
aspirations? Do you have aspirations of having a show? I mean, you're in New York or publishing because it's a lot easier now with technology.
Um, yeah, I'm starting to think of people are encouraging me to do that. And I'm starting to think about it. I think a big part of me has always been, if that part of it comes, then let it be. Then it'll come.
Mhm.
right.
I haven't been actively uh, knocking on doors, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, I do have some breaking news. I am going to be in a gallery in Vermont this
Oh,
fall.
okay.
Yeah. I was up in Vermont a couple of years ago during the fall. And to be honest, it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel up there during the fall because it's
Mhm.
just so incredibly beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine's wife, sort of submitted some work uh, on my behalf without me knowing it, and was accepted to be exhibited in this gallery for my
Wow.
Vermont photography. Of all
Oh,
things, my Vermont
congratulations.
Mhm.
photography.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to hook you up with Greg Fuller. His
Greg, yes,
brother.
Greg's another one that came
Yeah.
knocking. I
Yeah.
didn't know Greg very well, but because of the photography, I've gotten to know a bunch of people a
Yeah.
lot better through Facebook because of the photography.
The
Well, I
Vermont
have to
thing. Yeah.
go ahead.
Vermont.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Greg Fuller got deep roots in Vermont. So if you're up there by Brattleboro by chance, his brother runs a restaurant up there called TJ Buckley's.
Yeah, the gallery I'm in is in Arlington, which is sort
Okay.
of the other side of the state. It's about a 45, 50-minute drive.
Okay.
But yeah, Greg and I were talking. We were trying to hook up a couple of years back to go see his
Okay.
brother's restaurant.
Yeah. Cool.
And then I just got together with Greg a few months ago in Cleveland. We went to
Okay.
the Cleveland Museum together.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Let's bring up something we talked pre-show that I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people want to hear about. The Civil War between Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights,
Right.
and your dad being a prominent person in the Cleveland Heights school system. Talk about that. How did it affect you and your relationship with Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights?
Yeah.
Okay,
So I've been through therapy. I've been through therapy for this. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I didn't know growing up in Cleveland Heights at age 5, moving to Shaker, that it was going to be any sort of big deal. And it wasn't much of a deal. You know, I have 2 sisters that are both older than me, so they sort of maybe broke ground ahead of me.
Okay.
And it was just sort of going to be, it was like decided, you go to Shaker and you are 100% a Shaker student, except when it comes to basketball, because you know you're going to root for your dad, and it was like, yeah, okay, so I'm going to root for my dad's basketball team, and I'm going to be Shaker everything else.
Yeah.
And I think I maybe even overcompensated a little because, you know, as a member of the class of '85, I was one of 4 or 5 people voted most spirited, because I went to all the football games, all the hockey games. I even went to soccer games sometimes. And I would lead the cheers at the football games on Saturdays in the afternoons. I'd get the whole crowd rolling, you know?
Yeah.
And same with the hockey games. I'd get people all riled up. We were banging on the glass, just having a great time. And when it came time for basketball, it was like, yeah, Cleveland Heights is going to kick Shaker's ass. Because
you were vocally doing that. You were actually. I thought they would say, "Where's Jim?" Oh, yeah, we're playing Heights. Okay, yeah.
You know, what's great about it, my friends totally understood.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to admit, I probably pissed a bunch of them off at some point or another. But they were, you know, they didn't give me shit about it ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The people that gave me shit about it were the teachers and coaches at Shaker.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me a lot of shit about it.
Like real shit, or just kind of
like real shit.
Really?
No, some of it.
Wow.
Some were tongue in cheek, absolutely. You know, and I understand. You know, we joke about it. You know, I remember Mr. Hogue.
Mr. Hogue, yeah.
You know, he would joke about it with me all the time, and it was fun and games. It was all fun and games.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Dimmick, fun and games.
Mr.
But
Quinones.
when it came to that bitch, yeah, Quinones, Schwartz.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, fuck these guys, man, because they were just. It was relentless.
Yeah,
it was relentless. Yeah. And okay, so I think out of my whole tenure at Shaker maybe won twice in basketball. and those 2 times it was Quinones and Schwartz and a couple others were like, admit it, Cappelletti, your dad was out coached. And I was like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah,
I was like, there's no out coaching. You got lucky. You won a game.
Yeah.
You know?
I see Quinones saying that in his way.
Mr. Roethlisberger, there's another one. He was the coach at Shaker when we were there. And I remember I'd get out my Heights t-shirt, my Heights sweatshirt, and I'd wear it to Shaker and make sure that I passed by like basketball practice so that Roethlisberger could see it.
Wow.
You know, I was like, you want to dish out shit? I'll dish out shit, you know? That dynamic, again, my friends were totally understanding about it. Some of the coaches not so understanding about it. I'm like, what am I going to do? You know, am I going to go home and tell my dad Heights bites? You know,
you could be a spy. You know, you could be a spy.
Get the playbook.
Yeah. So I played a little bit of basketball at Woodbury, and Roethlisberger was the coach. And when I was at the high school, I remember like one of the first meetings between my dad and Roethlisberger. My dad asked me, he was like, you know, does he have any weaknesses? And I was like, you know what? I'm telling you right now, if you throw a 1-3-1 zone at him, he won't know what the fuck he's doing. You'll have nothing for it. And so my dad did it just for fun. He threw out a 1-3-1 zone. and like Roethlisberger called a timeout, I remember, and they were like going over the offense. And I remember what his offense was against the 1-3-1, and it just didn't work. It was like, it just doesn't work. So yeah. So there was that little bit there, but I remember, my dad's basketball teams were tremendously successful. I mean, unbelievably successful. And my dad always scheduled his games to play Ignatius and some of these teams in Akron and Camp McKinley. Really, really tough out of league schedule. So that when he went back into the LEL and played those games, it was pretty much a cakewalk.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think my dad had something like 11 or 12 LEL titles, 4 Final Four appearances, just sort of head and shoulders above what Shaker ever did in basketball. But there was some great basketball at Shaker. There was some great players too. Like Nala Morris was amazing.
Yes. Nadi. Shout out to
Nadi was incredible.
How about Mackey when Mackey's son came? Remember Mackey when he was at Cleveland State and his son came to Shaker in our senior year?
Yeah, I remember that.
Mackey's son.
Yeah, I was in Moments when that happened. I'm pretty sure. Oddly enough, after many, many years of coaching, my dad coached nearly 35 years. And when he was kind of pushed out to retire, the first thing the Shaker coach did was call my dad and say, if you want to help out, you've got a spot here. And my dad went to Shaker and started helping. And helped out. Yeah. So my dad would help run open gyms and did some scouting, things like that. And I think Terry Rozier.
I was just going to bring him up.
Yeah. So my dad was around.
Wow.
My dad was around when Terry was at Shaker.
So when did this recruitment start to happen? Because let's be honest, Shaker started recruiting people from certain places because he's not from here. Yeah.
Well, I think, people used to think my dad did. But what my dad did, which was so smart, which made him so successful, was back in the 70s, my dad opened up the Cleveland Heights Pavilion summer camp.
Oh,
so the pavilion, the ice rink?
Yeah.
So he had that turned into like 3 or 4 basketball courts during the summer, and he would run a camp every summer, and kids from all over went to that camp. And again, public school, my dad wasn't allowed to recruit, but because everyone was there at my dad's camp, it was like, let's move to Heights and play for Coach Cap. My dad in the early 70s made a Final Four appearance down in Columbus and ended up losing to Camp McKinley in overtime by like, I think 4 points or something. And that, sort of set him, set the bar. And then every summer, he'd run that camp and all the kids wanted to go. I mean, everybody went to my dad's camp. Yeah. So anybody that was anybody in the Cleveland district was like, if you weren't getting recruited by St. Ignatius or Camp McKinley, which they were allowed to recruit, kids could say, hey, we can just move to Cleveland Heights and play for Coach Cap because they play all the best teams. And Coach Cap's got this record. They're always winning the LEL, and occasionally they're making it down to the state. So
did he know about LeBron's rise? Was he hearing about him? Did he know about him? Was he following him?
Yes, my dad won state championship the year LeBron won states. But LeBron was in a different division.
Okay.
So that was they never played each other. I forget LeBron's high school. But anyway, they were different divisions. And
St. Vincent,
I remember
St. Vincent, St. Mary, yeah.
Yeah.
Akron, St. Vincent.
Columbus was insanely packed that year because LeBron was playing in the game prior to my dad's game. And I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was the year my dad won state against Zanesville or something like that. But yeah, there's a huge, big hoopla because LeBron was in town. So,
So how would your experience have been different if you had your high school experience or whatever growing up in Cleveland Heights compared to Shaker? How different would it have been, do you think?
I think it would have been tremendously different.
How so?
I think, Heights was in the beginning, in the 70s, Heights was a lot like Shaker. I think probably more or less 50-50 black to white with some other, some Asian students, some Jewish students. There was a good mix in Cleveland Heights in the 70s, more along the lines of what Shaker was. And then something happened. There was a switch, and it just wasn't the Shaker scene anymore. I think my mom knew about the Shaker school system from the 60s and its model. And she was like, we need to move toward that model. My mom did a lot of work in the Cleveland Heights area as a realtor, helping to diversify neighborhoods. And she went undercover, did this undercover thing where they found real estate agents were steering blacks to certain neighborhoods in the East Cleveland and Cleveland area, and Cleveland Heights. And she did not want that to happen to Cleveland Heights. So she did a lot of work to help diversify that school system as much as she could. And then, again, it was probably 74 or something like that, or this is when we moved to Shaker.
So you're saying you would not have had as diverse of an experience as you?
Yeah, I think it wouldn't have been as diverse. I don't know about the teachers or the schooling, if that would have been worse or better. I remember Cleveland Heights had a garage where you could study mechanics. Shaker never had that.
Yeah. I took a workshop there in 85 after I graduated.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I wanted to say this about your late father, because I think that's when I was living back in Cleveland, I appreciate the honor of having to go to his memorial, and I did not know about the legacy that your father had there at Cleveland Heights, and the gym being named after him. But most importantly, just a lot of his former players that came through, and just the impact that he had on their lives, and hearing their testimonials. And man, that was really touching, man. I can't say that enough. Can't say that enough.
Yeah, I was
Appreciate that.
My sisters and I, when we were planning services after my father passed, we weren't going to do a big hoopla, and then we realized very shortly after his passing that he had a following, and he deserved sort of a bigger send off, and so we started planning the celebration of life ceremony for him, and people just came out of the woodwork, to help us with that, and it was truly unbelievable how many people. And then Travis Kelce, of all people, actually came out and just said, "You know what? I love Coach Cap. Let me pay for this."
Oh, wow.
And he paid for the whole thing. The flyers and rented out the gym at Heights. And my Travis played ball for my dad briefly. My dad recruited him off the football team and said, "Travis, can you rebound a basketball?" It was like, I just need somebody to rebound and go ahead and dunk all you want.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so Travis and Jason were really tight with my dad. They loved it. I got to meet Travis at the Celebration of Life ceremony, and yeah, and then all the players that came back. I'm still in touch with some of the players from the early '70s that
Wow.
played for my dad, and a lot
Who,
of them played.
who won Mr. Ohio, Mr. Basketball in Ohio it wasn't too
Damon
long
Stringer.
ago. That's right, Damon Stringer. But went
Yeah.
on to
Yeah.
Ohio State, and then he went to
Yeah.
Cleveland State, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Damon was unbelievable. I remember my dad saw Damon playing in 6th grade and was like, that kid's going to start for me.
Nice.
In ninth grade, Damon started for my dad.
Wow.
And no 9th grader had ever made the team before.
What did your dad feel about AAU?
Yeah.
Was he involved in that? And
Yeah, that's a good question.
No, he stayed out of all that stuff. He just was like, the doors are open at my camp. Everybody comes to my camp, and he could put in the word, if somebody he really thought was good and wanted to play for him, he could find a way to help steer that without, breaking any rules.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do you recall at Shaker, there was a basketball game. This is when they were at the LEL, and a fight broke out in our Shaker gym, and it was pandemonium. Was that against Heights or was that against Shaw?
It was Shaw.
It was Shaw. Okay, yeah. I just remember those the mascot things in the gym were like broken off after the fact.
Yeah. I think ultimately it came down to something like there were 6 Shaw kids hanging outside the gym afterwards, and 100 of us, and none of us would leave. We were like, I'm not going outside.
Wow.
There's no way I'm going outside.
I remember hearing people getting chased through yards and everything. It was just
Yeah.
But
yeah, I remember Steve Ellison, I think, was walking back to his car and somebody jumped out and scared him.
Wow. Yeah. I just remember that in the gym. So that's good. I
remember playing Shaw, Heights versus Shaw way back, and this is late '70s. I remember walking around during halftime because I'd always go get popcorn or something, and I heard these kids talking like, "We're going to get Coach Cappelletti."
Oh,
and I was like,
"Whoa!"
What? And I remember running to the locker room, telling my dad, I was like, I heard these kids and we're talking, they're going to get you. And my dad was like, just stay close to me. And after the game, somebody threw a knife at my dad and missed and hit a cheerleader in the leg.
What?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was this knife, like went flying through the air, missed my dad, hit this cheerleader, stabbed her right in the leg.
Damn, bro. Wow.
Crazy shit. Yeah, there was always a fight. I remember riding the bus with my dad's team. We'd have to put our gym bags up to the window as the bus pulled out because people were throwing rocks all the time, like wherever we went. Yeah, it was crazy shit.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, Shaker, and we couldn't play night games. We had to play afternoon games because they were too afraid of what might happen.
Yeah, at that point, when we were at Shaker, it got switched to daytime.
Yeah. No, everybody hated Shaker. It was like, Shaw, East, who else? JFK, Warrensville. Like, everybody hated us.
Well, for good reason, I think. They were the have-nots and we were the haves, and uppity.
I mean, that was the perception. That was
a lot of it was for good reason too. If you think back,
yeah. So it was just a trip, man. The rivalries, man. We've just been chilling, cruising. Go ahead, man.
So, what was the best, or what were the best lessons that you learned from attending Shaker or being in the Shaker community best helped you with your life going forward?
Prepared you.
I think the group of people that I grew up with at Shaker were just outstanding. I'm in touch with so many of them today maybe not on a daily basis, but so many of them I could call at a moment's notice after not talking to them for a long time, and they'd just be there for you. I know that in my heart, and I'd be there for them as well. The diversity that we experienced at Shaker was a tremendous experience, and having so many different friends, different types of friends from different backgrounds, I think was incredible. And I don't know if Shaker instilled this in us or not, but I felt like to be popular at Shaker, you had to be good at school, you had to be good at making friends, you had to be good at sports, you had to be good at everything you did, and it wasn't like a pressure to be good at all those things. It was accepted. That's what you did. You excelled at everything, even if you were excelling at partying after school.
Had to do something good. Yeah.
There were people that did their best to be the best partier after school. Mm-hmm. And I think it was just sort of accepted that you did all of those things, and I sort of felt like I was a bit of a social butterfly when I was in high school. I had some main friends, but I also sort of bounced around to different groups, and was accepted into those groups for, with no questions asked. I was able to experience all these different things, and the diversity of it all made for an invaluable experience. I mean, I didn't notice how segregated things were until I got to Ohio State.
Oh yeah.
We were just one big group of people that did a lot of things together.
Yeah.
And then I got to Ohio State, and it was like, no, you don't do that here.
Right.
And I think it was a very special experience. Shaker was. Yeah.
I just think about Ohio State. How many of particularly 85, rolled down to Ohio State. I mean, there was like at least over a dozen people. And that network still stayed in touch with each other.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going.
I love what you guys are doing. I love that you guys got this podcast going, and I love watching people talk about their experiences and listening to their memories. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. And this is
our pleasure.
Keep it going.
Yes, one episode at a time.
Who would you like to see on our show that you haven't seen, or who would you put a shout out for that you think we should bring on?
Yeah, who do you hear from?
I think. Well, I talked to Gabe just recently because I know you guys are having Dave Udolph come on soon, and I definitely would have said, "Hey, you got to get Dave on there." Have you had Bill McRae on?
Oh, we got to get Bill. Yes,
you got to get Bill on. And just real quick story, Bill McRae and I and Jennifer Grape Pro and Sarah Gardner and Gretel Smith all started this little viewing party when the Tribe went to the World Series last time in 2016, was it?
Yeah.
2015. And I lasted 4 years. 4 years, every night we'd watch Tribe games together and chat online.
Wow.
And and they're still going. They're still going.
Oh, wow.
My photography sort of took me away from the group because I've got things to do in the evening. But they're still going, and they're watching Tribe games together. Like any one of those people would be great to have on the show. And I think, I know now that you're going to have Dave Udolph on, nobody has seen the comings and going of people the way he has, for the last 50 years.
He's a historian. He's the tribal historian of all of us.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah. No, and I was actually pretty close to Dave, late junior high, my Woodbury days. And then Dave moved away to get his graduate degree. But we stayed in touch, you know.
Yeah.
And I was actually, the last time I was in Cleveland, we got together with him, and every time he comes to New York City, we'll end up going over to the mat, walk around, catch up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, we have him. I think it's November 24th.
29th.
Awesome.
Or
29th. 24th, 29th. I gotta look at the calendar. But he's booked. He's booked. If we look forward to that. We'll definitely circle back to Bill McRae. Love to get Sarah Gardner, get some of the Shaker women on. Sometimes we were just like, don't be shy. Come on, speak the truth. Speak your truth.
You're gonna be surprised at some of the people that are coming on. There are some people that we'd really like to come on, but it's difficult to get them to commit at this point. But I think,
who do you need me to prod? I can prod a few people. I can prod.
We can talk that offline. I don't want to put any people on Front Street here. But
oh wait. Do you want to?
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Do you want to know who the 85 in the football field?
Yes, we do. Who burnt the 85 in the football field? Statute of limitations is over. It's over.
All right. I'm going to give it up. But this is what I know. I was invited to decorate the school a little bit prior to the first day of senior year.
Okay.
And I met up with some people late at night. We snuck out of the house, and it was me and Paul Bixler was there, and Peter Stern was there.
I knew it.
Peter Weah was there, and there were a couple more. And Peter Weah put the gasoline on the field.
It was Peter Weah.
It was Peter Weah. He put the gasoline on the field. I don't know who lit the match.
Probably Paul Bixler or Peter Stern.
Is that the soccer coach's son? Was that
Yeah.
Okay.
He drove a Volvo. I remember that. Boxy Volvo.
Yeah.
Randomness.
That's what I recall. That's what I saw. I'm sticking to it. I'm sorry, Peter. I'm sorry, Peter. I'm sorry to blame you. Maybe Peter Stern helped. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that sounds like something Peter would do.
Bixler and I, at the time of the gasoline dumping, were on the other side of the school doing something else.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds like them. They both were felonious. Okay.
And we were just decorating. We weren't.
Yes.
Yes. We were getting ready for our senior year with a little decoration.
Imagine if you were a photographer back then.
Right?
Yeah. Capture that. There you go. Shaker alumni.
Get Live 85.
85. Well, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Amazing episode with Jimmy Jam Cappelletti. You need to look up his work online. Check out his work online. And catch him on Facebook. Do you anticipate catching a charge again on Facebook and going to Facebook jail? Do you anticipate?
Charge? I mean, Facebook jail?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going. Not going back.
Okay. All right.
I give that motherfucker shit on True Social, though, every day.
I tell you what, you know what would be a dope photography project? You document a Trump rally.
I'd get in trouble. I would get in a lot of trouble.
And keep your mouth shut, huh?
Yo, dude, you don't know what type of work you might create, man. Like being in the belly of the beast.
Pulitzer Prize winning.
Yeah, I'm saying.
I don't know. I don't know if I could fake it. I don't know if I could keep my mouth shut. I don't think so.
Oh, well, all right.
I know.
Thank you, everybody who tuned in. Another episode of Shaker Heights, and we really appreciate you all. You want to keep your Shaker spirit alive, check out our merchandise, Shaker Garment Company. We got a lot of what we call new vintage Shaker items for your house and for your apparel.
And with that, a word from our sponsor.
I have to show you my knockbox.
What?
Oh, I was going to say, We don't have an episode next Sunday, but next Wednesday, the 18th, we have Miss Shaker School Spirit, Susie Spiro Schreiber.
Sure.
Wednesday, the 18th, 8 p.m. EST. You will know about it. Okay, a word from our sponsors.
I have to show you my Knockbox. It's a system that comes with 15 labeled folders in 66 categories that organizes every single part of your life in case of an emergency or death. And it's not just the labeled folders. It also comes with detailed instructions so you know exactly what information you need to put in there and what your next of kin needs to do with it. Click on through to the website so you can check out the deals this holiday season.
Use the There you go. Okay, everybody. Check us out on the other platforms. Until next time, thank you. Have a blessed Sunday. Go Browns. May the Steelers lose.
What did you want to say about the Knockbox? Because my sister wants to buy one.
Oh,
What
the
was-
Knockbox. Well, the Knockbox has several price tiers, so you could just order the paperwork and not the box itself. But if you use the Shaker Podcast 16, you get 16% off your purchase. There we go. Let me put it back up here. Yeah, Shaker Podcast 16. Use the code Shaker Podcast 16 with the Knockbox. Tell them we sent you.
All right.
Okay.
Go Browns.
Go
Until
Browns.
next time. We're ending the stream. We are out.